Which of the following is true of entrepreneurs? So welcome back. Now my name is Ted Thomas and I've been an entrepreneur working from a small office at home for over 30 years. Today we're going to have quite a discussion, and these are things that entrepreneurs bring up all the time. So in this episode we're going to discuss which of the following is true of entrepreneurs. For sure, there's no simple answer. Now, my expressions are going to be a lot different than you're going to read in Wikipedia. So follow along with me for a little bit. We're going to talk about a definition of an entrepreneur. Now, some people, at least the public, believe an entrepreneur just starts business and then they quickly sell them. Buy them, quickly sell them. Well, that would be nice if you could. It takes a little time to start a business, but you have to make money before you could ever sell it. Now, some entrepreneurs want to do just that. They want to start and then resell it. Other entrepreneurs want to start the business, then they want to grow it, then they want to innovate it and grow it to a couple of new levels, and then they even want to go public and become a stock exchange company. All right, so there's going to be different definitions of being an entrepreneur. So if you're trying to do it because you want to be rich, or you're trying to do it because you want to be famous, I don't want you to be disillusioned, but I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I don't sugarcoat this. I tell people, look, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to grow a business, you're going to have to be quite determined, that is stubborn, because a lot of these businesses fail. According to the Small Business Administration, 80% of the businesses will fail in the first 5 years. So what do you know about funding? What do you know about planning? Have you thought of any of those things? Now, planning is going to be a big deal. So that means you better research the business that you want to get into. Now, do you want to have a product business or do you want to have a service business? In either case, you're going to have to solve problems. Now, what are you going to do with this business? Are you going to buy it just to sell it? Are you going to buy it to grow it? Are you going to buy it to run it? Okay, so it takes a certain person to start a business. It takes a different person to keep a business and manage it. Now, we know a lot of businesses grow, and they grow like a weed, and they outgrow the entrepreneur that created them, so they have to bring in management to run those businesses and grow them to another and different kind of business, because they become management sensitive and not entrepreneurial any longer. So the truth is, entrepreneurs can see the world and all the improvements that are needed. Not only the improvements we need in our life, but the improvements we need in government, the improvements we need in business itself. So they see problems and they're willing to try to solve those problems. So entrepreneurs are really problem solvers. That's something to really think about it. Now, everyone likes the story, which is after the fact, of Elon Musk or Stephen Jobs or Bill Gates. Everyone loves those stories. Why? But those are 20 and 30-year-old entrepreneurs. In other words, they started their entrepreneurial life 30 years ago. It takes a long time. Why were they successful? Well, the truth is, most of them on the way failed. And most of those people that tried to do those businesses ended up in some kind of bankruptcy or failure, or having some other business absorb them. Yes, some did do very well and continue to do well today, but that's the minority. So starting a business and being a true entrepreneur is not the easiest job in the world. Now, what are you going to do about money? Have you thought about how much money that you're going to need? If you're doing this because you want to be wealthy, you're going to have to think about the money. So don't quit your job. I tell that to people all the time. Rule number 1 is don't quit your job. Rule number 2 is reread or re-listen to rule number 1. Don't quit that job. Now, once you found out a business that you like, what are you going to do about growing it? Are you going to need money to do that? Are you going to need people to do that? Are you going to do marketing programs to do that? What have you thought about marketing, distribution, and sales? Have you thought about any of those things? Well, you're going to have to think about them ahead of time, not afterwards. Okay, now, if you've made up your mind that you want to be in business, you're going to need considerable money. Now, you're going to need considerable money for the ups and downs of that business. Now, if you're ready to work 20 hours a day and you're determined and you're stubborn, then you're probably a person that could be an entrepreneur. Most people can't be entrepreneurs. Why? It takes too many hours. They're not stubborn enough. I know I'm not sugarcoating it. Why aren't I sugarcoating it? Because I know, according to the Small Business Administration, 80% of all businesses, if 1,000 of them start, 800 of them will fail in the first 5 years. Now, why are they failing? Well, because a lot of people are dreaming about the business. They haven't figured out a problem-solving product or a problem-solving service. If you don't have one of those two, well, you're going to have spent a lot of time and you'll have wasted a lot of time. All right, so who's the entrepreneur? Well, let me give you an example. All right, everyone that went to college probably had to find out where they were going to stay. Did they stay in a dorm or did they stay in a rental home? A lot of people stay in a rental home and they stay there 4 or 5 years while they're getting through college. Now, the person in the rental home, well, that's kind of an entrepreneur, but what they are is they're just in a small business where they rent rooms or rent the whole house out or whatever. All right, so that's just a simple rental business. All right, well, entrepreneurs don't think like that. They think a little differently than that. They might think of that rental property as a rental property, but what if they could rent that to a tourist, or what if they could rent it to a family that was on a temporary work assignment and they could get a lot more rent because it's a short-term rental? Well, now those are two different businesses. One was a long-term rental where the people got a little bit of money every single month for a long time. The other business is when they make a lot of money and they do it in a short period of time. And then there's the guy that comes along, or gal that comes along, that wants to create Airbnb. What did they do? Well, they just packaged all that and started letting the world know that there was lots of rental units out there and they could rent them for a week or a month, and suddenly people started doing that on vacations. Now, the people that live in the Florida Keys, you can imagine they're going to rent their homes many times throughout the year. Why? Because they can get a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when people compare it to what they'd have to spend in a hotel. So suddenly there was an entrepreneur came and put all that together. So what did the entrepreneur have to do? Well, they had to work. They had to do a lot of work. First of all, they had to figure out rental agreements. They had to figure out how they're going to market it, how they're going to let the world know about it. But what happens? They get a piece of every one of those rentals. They get a small portion of it, and they don't have to own property. So they could have a business that they're doing with a computer and people and not own hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of real estate, which imagine all that real estate that you'd have to take care of. So along comes the entrepreneur. They have a vision. That's you. All right. So if you want to be a true entrepreneur, then you have to be thinking of new things. Think of how to improve other businesses. Could you put two businesses together and improve it and innovate, and then the other two and compete with those two? So you have one doing the work of two, and that's what people want. They want to be able to make money. In other words, they want to solve problems. They want to be innovative. So entrepreneurs recognize that, and that's the key to being an entrepreneur. Now, does that mean that someone got the rules all written for you? You can just pick the book up and start reading it? Well, the book's going to sit and say, yeah, you can do it. And when you look at the news reports, all these entrepreneurs are making money. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, 80% of them fail. I don't sugarcoat it for a reason, because it's not easy. It requires a lot of determination. Okay, who's the winner? Well, everybody's the winner if the entrepreneurs are involved, just like the rental property. The guy that was renting to the student, they were happy, but they were a lot happier if they could do a short-term rental and make more money. So how many people are happy in this deal? Well, lots of people are happy in the deal because the entrepreneur got in the middle of it and recreated the business. All right, so entrepreneurs really are problem solvers. So can you create a problem-solving product? Can you create a problem-solving service? Now, if you're solving problems, people will pay you for that. How much will they pay you? They'll pay you big dollars. So what did the computer do? The computer solved the problem. You didn't have to have more and more files. You didn't have to have more and more people. Every problem that comes along has someone trying to solve it. If you can solve problems, or if you can look at other businesses and innovate and make them better, then what are you? Well, you're the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur is where you want to be. Now, why did you want to be that? Well, you need to decide that, because if you're doing it just because you want to be rich and just because you want to be famous, I don't want to disillusion you. I'm going to tell you 80% of these businesses fail. Why do they fail? Well, if you go to the Small Business Administration, they'll tell you they fail because, number one, they don't have enough working capital, and number two, they don't know anything about distribution or marketing and sales. They spend all their time creating the problem-solving product or service, and they don't know how to market it. So marketing is going to be important. All right. Now, the business I got involved in 200 years ago was invented then, not now. All I did is look at the business and say, well, wait a minute. If I can buy properties for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar and sell them for anything I want, well, then there's a business for me. And once I looked at that, I never looked back. So what was the business? Well, it was nothing more than traditional real estate, except these were tax defaulted properties. And there was millions of them nationwide. All 3,000 counties have tax defaulted property. So a county with a large population could have hundreds, even thousands of these properties that they're willing to sell for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar with no mortgage and no deed of trust loan. And the smaller counties, smaller population that is, okay, they'll have hundreds or at least dozens of these properties they want to sell. But overall, over 3,000 tax defaulted auctions every year. Anybody can attend the auction. They're an auction, the highest bidder gets it. So what do? I try to buy them at the lowest price possible, okay? But I look at the value first. So I don't buy any junk. Some of the properties are move-in quality. Some of them are used and abused. So I buy a property as low price possible, then I can mark it up anything I want. As long as I'm under the market, I'm going to be able to sell it quickly. What's my point? My point is that there's plenty of these properties out there, and anybody that wants can get involved. The entrepreneurial part of the business is looking at the property, figuring out what the value is, figure out what you could sell it for, and then going in and bargaining with the auctioneer to buy that property at the right price. Business has been around for well over 200 years. I've been involved in it for 30 years. There's many other videos in this channel that you can learn about that. Now, if you do get involved in tax defaulted property, there's two things you need to know about. You don't want to buy a property unless you've had boots on the ground. Why? What if there was a hurricane? What if there was a fire? What if there was a flood? What if you didn't look at it, it was next to a chicken farm? That's not going to be very nice in the summertime. It's going to smell a lot, right? So you want to look at the property. Second big mistake people make, they don't do the evaluation. They don't figure out, well, I can sell it for X, so I better buy it for X. All right, if you can do those two things, you can be an entrepreneur and you can be in this business. Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and right below me, I have an auction calendar. I call it the Magic Auction Calendar. Why is it magic? Because you can get an auction list just by looking at that video that's below me right now. I'm Ted Thomas.